So let's start with this. The first question I want to move through is how are the bad actors taking advantage of remote workers? And obviously, kind of with an eye on how that's different, and maybe it's not different, you tell me, but how they're taking advantage of people working in, remote situations. And Ian, maybe I'll get you to start off on that.
Sure. So if you think about organized crime or a threat actor, they're taking advantage of remote workers exactly the same as they would take advantage of an in-office worker. The negative piece is that that remote worker has only some, if any, of the protections that the traditional office environment would offer.
Oh.
So if I'm working on a corporate device at my home, the security might be able to extend into my home somewhat. But if I'm doing a BYOD thing, which typical for small business, hey, just use your laptop and remote into the server, there's no visibility into that laptop. There's no protection from that endpoint, from that computer. If my 16-year-old has something that he downloaded a game or a video off a BitTorrent and suddenly his computer is infected with malware, that could monitor all of my traffic because we're on that same network. So you got a lot of different variables with the house. And those individuals are using those home things for personal aspects. So you've got risks from personal email, personal web browsing habits, personal internet use. So really it's a cluster and it keeps everyone up at night. And anyone in IT security I know is rapidly growing gray, myself included. I would say that this is trying to go to the rodeo without a rope.
It is a big challenge. We do require that everybody working remote from home do use a company asset for their laptop. They're obviously using their smartphones for BYOD. We do a lot of security awareness training and then weekly tips, things like changing your SSID, having a password on your home network that also meets our standards as if you were in the office, using a VPN if you're in an open environment. The one that Ian mentioned with the kids, that's always a challenge. That's a tough one to overcome. But the awareness training has been a big deal for us. We do phishing campaigns all the time.
The one I don't think that people think about the most is the actual people in your house, right? So let's talk about that teenager for a second. You realize that teenager can make money off of what's on your computer, right? People don't think about the access on the dark web to go on and sell pictures of mom and dad, screenshots from their computers. This doesn't mean much to these kids, right? They don't think about the impact and the damage that they're doing. And it's a very, very real thing that you don't have to hack somebody if you can convince their teenager when they get up to go cook dinner to go in there and just take screenshots. I pay for names and social security numbers, right? So that and the loss of privacy in the home versus your office.
Terrified.
Think about that and the loss of privacy, right? So let's take security and privacy and put them both out there. The data that you're moving, let's say Pax8, for example, in your case, for the most part, this is business data. It's not, PHI. Take a doctor and do a telehealth session and realize you're sitting in the living room, your kids can hear you, your wife can hear you, that, you know what I mean? Like, you don't think about that. In the office, everyone around you is trained. They themselves are sharing in that risk. You're in that mindset where you're protected. All that goes away as soon as you go home. Now you're in a shared environment with people that don't think like you.
And you know what? Teenagers are so proficient with the technologies as well, right? Like, all of my friends pretty much say that their, IT professional, rightly or wrongly, is, one of their teenage kids, right? And Mark, I want to get you to jump in here too. Specifically work more on the printer side. And of course, printers get a bad rap in the IT world, but they're basically sophisticated computers that spit out paper, right? They have chips, they have RAM, they're connected to the network, and they are another asset, which obviously we often forget about, but I think it's important to consider. So Mark, maybe you can jump in. Do you see any things that bad actors are doing because of all these either home supplied printers or ones that companies are actually supplying for them?
Yeah, Wes, and I'll steal your line, right? That printers don't print, that people do. And we really rely on that when we're starting to look at security in a home environment when it comes to printing. Some of the things that we have started running into is, we're talking about families with a single parent possibly, or a single person having VPNs and things. When we have multiple, maybe the parents in the home office that are working for multiple companies. My neighbors, for example, both work for competing pharmaceutical companies. And so each of them have their own security profiles that they have to have on their home network, and they oftentimes clash. And so when you start throwing a printer MFP in the mix, it really becomes a complete different situation. And connecting with VPNs and non-connecting, and are they letting the kids use those? So we're seeing a lot of headaches when it's coming to printing in the home office. And then when it comes to that management, as you said, of the supplies, it's where are they getting their supplies? Who's calling in? Let me remote into your machine and see if you need new firmware or if you need supplies alerts. We'll manage that for you. Once that happens, it's just opening up all kinds of security holes throughout the home.